He grabbed his brother by the collar in front of the whole family, and for the first time in this entire story, Zwelakhe looked like a man who had nothing left to lose. If you have been waiting for the moment this family finally cracks wide open, today's episode is the one you have been waiting for, so stay with me till the end because this one gets heavy. Welcome back to the channel, family, and thank you for always pulling up for these reviews. Before we get into today's episode, let me remind you that this is a recap and review written from my own perspective as a fan of the show, so if you have not caught the actual broadcast yet, treat this as a companion discussion rather than a word-for-word account, because the real magic is always in watching it unfold on your screen. With that said, let's get into what went down. The episode opens on a quiet morning, but anyone who has followed this family for even a few weeks knows that quiet mornings in this house never stay quiet for long. Zwelakhe is up before everyone else, sitting alone with a cup of tea that has clearly gone cold because he has not touched it. You can tell just from his posture that the events of the past few weeks have finally caught up with him. He has spent so long being the calm one, the reasonable one, the son who tried to hold the family together even while his entire identity was being quietly rewritten behind his back. Today, that calm cracks. We all remember how this started. Zwelakhe grew up believing he was a Mackay's through and through, carrying that surname with pride, standing on that name in every argument, every family meeting, every moment where lineage mattered. Slendile knew the truth long before anyone else did, and she chose silence, not out of malice necessarily, but because some truths feel too dangerous to hand to the people you love. The trouble is, silence like that never stays buried. It always finds a way to surface, usually at the worst possible time, and that is exactly what happened here. When Zwelakhe finally pushed his mother to open up about his background, what he got instead was more evasiveness, more of that same guarded energy that made him feel like an outsider investigating his own life. So he did what any determined man in his position would eventually do. He went and got the DNA test done quietly, without asking anyone's permission, without waiting for the family to hold another one of those long, exhausting meetings where nothing actually gets resolved. And when those results came back, they confirmed what so many of us had already suspected from all those visits to the Sangoma, from all those cryptic warnings about ancestors calling him back to a different bloodline. Zwelakhe is not a Mackay's by blood. He is a Kwab. Now, if you think finding out you're not related to the father who raised you is hard, imagine finding out that your biological father has already passed away. There is no confrontation to have, no apology to demand, no relationship to rebuild. Just a name, a bloodline, and a grief that arrives years too late to do anything with. That is the position Zwelakhe finds himself in, and today's episode does not let him sit with that quietly for long. The tension in the house has been building for a while now, mostly because of Mloba. If there is one character this season who has struggled to find his footing, it is him. He has spent so much energy trying to prove that he is not simply his father's shadow, that he has a spine of his own, a voice of his own, opinions that do not just echo whatever the older generation decides. And in trying to prove that, he has made some decisions that have not exactly earned him any goodwill, including that moment we all remember when he was caught sneaking around his father's room, hiding documents behind his back like a man with something to hide of his own. That scene alone told us that this family's problems run in more than one direction. Today, all of that collides. Zwelakhe, already raw from processing the truth about his father, walks into the house to find Mloba in the middle of one of his usual outbursts, this time aimed squarely at the DNA revelation. Instead of showing any compassion for what Zwelakhe is going through, Mloba decides this is the moment to needle him about it, throwing out comments about how convenient it must be to suddenly discover a new family history right when the old one becomes inconvenient. It is a cruel thing to say, and anyone watching can feel the temperature in the room shift the second those words land. Zwelakhe does not respond right away. That is the thing about him, he has always been the type to absorb things quietly before reacting, but you can see it in his eyes, that flicker of something building. Slendile tries to step in, the way she always does, positioning herself as the family's shock absorber, but this time her voice does not carry the same weight it used to. Too much has happened. Too many secrets have already spilled out for her words to smooth things over the way they once did. Mloba keeps going. He brings up the wedding, of all things, using it as another angle to attack, suggesting that Zwelakhe is trying to distract the family with a celebration while quietly rewriting his own identity behind the scenes. It is an unfair accusation, and deep down Mloba probably knows it, but by this point he has said too much to simply walk it back. Zwelakhe finally stands up, and the way he moves tells you everything you need to know about where this is headed. What follows is the scene everyone has been anticipating since the promo dropped. Zwelakhe grabs Mloba, and for a moment it looks like decades of suppressed frustration are finally boiling over all at once. It is not just about the insult Mloba just threw at him. It is about every quiet moment of feeling like an outsider in his own home, every whispered conversation he was never allowed to be part of, every time his mother chose silence over honesty. All of that comes rushing out in one physical moment, and the family scrambles to pull the two brothers apart before things go any further. Udumisane, who has had his own complicated relationship with this household, ends up being the one to physically separate them, which is its own kind of ironic given everything going on between him and his wife right now. She has made it clear she is losing patience with how this family operates, how decisions get made for people instead of with them, how loyalty seems to matter more than honesty in this house. Watching Udumisane step in to keep the peace between Zwelakhe and Mloba, even while his own home life is falling apart, adds an extra layer of tension to the scene that the writers clearly did not include by accident. Once the two brothers are separated, the room falls into that horrible kind of silence that follows a fight nobody expected to actually happen. Zwelakhe is breathing hard, clearly shaken by his own reaction, because this is not who he has ever been. He has always prided himself on being the reasonable one, the peacemaker, the son who tries to hold everyone together even when the family keeps giving him reasons to walk away. Seeing him lose control like that, even for a moment, tells you just how much pressure has been quietly building underneath his calm exterior this entire time. Slendile finally speaks, but her voice is different now, less commanding, more pleading. She tries to remind both of her sons that family is supposed to mean something, that whatever blood does or does not connect them, they were raised together, they grew up together, and that should count for more than a piece of paper from a laboratory. It is a nice sentiment, but you can tell from Zwelakhe's face that it does not land the way she hopes it will. Not right now. Not after everything. Mloba, for his part, looks almost stunned by his own words once the adrenaline fades. There is a flicker of regret there, though whether it is regret for provoking his brother or simply regret for getting caught in another moment of poor judgment is left deliberately unclear. This show has never been shy about letting its characters sit in ambiguous emotional space, and this scene is no exception. As the episode moves toward its final act, we get a quieter moment between Zwelakhe and Slendile, away from the rest of the family. This is where some of the emotional weight of the episode really lands. Zwelakhe does not shout at his mother the way he did with his brother. Instead, he asks her, almost exhausted, why she let him find out this way, why she let a lab result do the work that a mother's honesty should have done years ago. Slendile does not have a good answer, and to the show's credit, it does not try to manufacture one for her. She simply admits that she was afraid of losing him, afraid of how he would look at her once he knew the truth, and that fear kept her quiet for far longer than it should have. It is one of those scenes that reminds you why this story has held people's attention for as long as it has. Nobody here is purely a villain or purely a victim. Slendile's silence caused real pain, but her fear behind that silence is also completely human. Zwelakhe's anger is justified, but the way it exploded onto his brother was still a mistake he will likely have to answer for later. And Loba's cruelty in that moment came from his own insecurity about his place in this family, which does not excuse it, but does explain it. Toward the end of the episode, we cut briefly to Dumascene's wife, who is shown packing a small bag, clearly reaching her limit with how this entire family operates. She has made her frustration known before, about feeling unheard, about watching decisions get made around her instead of with her, and this latest blow-up between Zwelakhe and Loba seems to be the final push toward whatever decision she is about to make. The episode does not show us exactly where she is going, but the shot lingers just long enough to tell us this is not the last we will hear about it. The final scene of the episode brings us back to Zwelakhe, alone again, much like how the episode started, except this time the cold tea has been replaced by silence and a heavier kind of stillness. He looks at his phone, presumably at something related to the wedding everyone keeps bringing up, and for a moment it seems like he might reach out to someone, maybe his partner, maybe someone from his newfound family line, but he puts the phone down without dialing. The screen fades out on that image, leaving us with more questions than answers heading into the next episode. So where does this leave us? Zwelakhe is dealing with identity he never asked for, a father he will never get to meet, and a brother he just physically confronted for the first time in the show's history. Slendile is watching her carefully built world of silence collapse in real time, unable to undo the years of secrecy no matter how much she wishes she could. Loba has once again shown that his insecurities can turn destructive when he feels cornered, and Dumascene's household looks like it might be one push away from falling apart entirely. If I had to guess where this goes next, I would expect some kind of reckoning between Zwelakhe and Loba before the wedding storyline can move forward, because right now it feels impossible for this family to celebrate anything while this much unresolved tension is sitting in the room. I would also expect Slendile to face more pressure, maybe even from her own siblings, to finally be fully honest about everything she has kept hidden over the years, because half-truths have clearly stopped working for her at this point. As always, I want to remind everyone watching that this is my own interpretation and breakdown of the episode, written from a place of genuinely enjoying this story and wanting to talk it through with fellow fans, not as an official or verified account of the broadcast. If you caught the episode yourself, I would love to hear in the comments whether you think Zwelakhe was justified in that confrontation, or whether you think he crossed a line he cannot easily walk back from. Do you think Loba deserved that reaction, or was he simply saying out loud what everyone else has been thinking quietly? And what about Slendile? Do you think she owes her son more than just an apology at this point? Thank you so much for watching this review all the way through. If you enjoyed the breakdown, drop a like, leave your predictions in the comments, and subscribe if you want more of these recaps every time a new episode drops. I will see you in the next one, and until then, take care of yourselves and try not to keep secrets the way this family does, because clearly it never ends well.